Get free tech advice for your business from O2 Gurus. Search O2 Business for more.
Hey guys, welcome to BTech. It's Basil here with an iPhone 6 and a Samsung Galaxy S6. The Galaxy S6 was newly announced at MWC 2015, and while it may take some design cues from the iPhone, it definitely looks like a Galaxy. The front of this thing is really reminiscent of Galaxies we've seen in the past, but it looks and feels so much more expensive than anything we've seen from Samsung. We're going to start off by telling you about how the designs stack up against each other, and in hand, both of these, well, they both feel pretty great. The metal back from the iPhone is cool in the hand, and that's instantly kind of grabbing you. It also has beautifully rounded corners that kind of lead into the back, so that it really does feel premium, but maybe a little bit more slippery than the Samsung Galaxy S6. With the Samsung Galaxy S6's slightly flatter corners, it just sits a bit more securely. It's also maybe a little bit lighter, at least lighter in terms of weight to size ratio. It doesn't feel as dense, feels a tad more hollow, but it does have a really nice feeling glass back cover. It tracks fingerprints like crazy, but feels premium metal frame. And the metal frame on the iPhone 6, according to Samsung, is not going to bend anytime soon. They took a little jab at Apple in the press conference there. Key design highlights on the front of the devices. On the iPhone 6, you've got a home button, fingerprint scanner, and a front-facing camera, as well as a screen, 4.7 inches. Pixel density of 326 pixels per inch or thereabouts. As for the S6, you've got a Quad HD 5.1-inch display, home button, fingerprint scanner, although it's a swipe fingerprint scanner, think it is if the old S5 is anything to go by. 2 capacitive buttons either side, and you've got a front-facing f1.9 camera. A nice wide open aperture to ensure good low light selfies. On the flip sides of both devices, you have their rear-facing cameras. An 8 megapixel camera loaded up with a true tone flash. One warm, one cool flash in order to deliver the best white balance possible. If we take a look at the Samsung Galaxy S6, both of these cameras protrude slightly, but the S6 protrudes a little bit more. Heart rate monitor and a flash, as well as that Gorilla Glass 4 backing. On the right-hand side, you've got volume buttons down at the on the left-hand side, volume buttons down at the base. You've got a 3.5mm jack, micro USB connector, and a loudspeaker. On the right side, you've got a power button and a nano SIM slot. Up at the top, an infrared blaster, and looks like a noise-cancelling microphone or something along those lines. As for the iPhone, right-hand side, you've got a power button. As you can see, you've got a nano SIM card slot. Down at the base is a lightning connector and a loudspeaker, 3.5mm headphone jack. You can see you can unlock the phone really easily with just a fingerprint. On the left-hand side, volume buttons and a toggle. Up at the top, no buttons at all. Really nice feeling devices, both of them. Well done, Samsung, for finally hearing all the criticism out there against plastic and switching to metal. I really hope it lasts in the durability tests when we get one in for review. As for those screens, Quad HD Super AMOLED versus IPS of sorts. Apple's screens are always beautiful, nice and superficial, feel great to swipe across expensive glass. It's a rounded glass as well, so it kind of curves out to the side, which just complements the whole body of the phone really, really nicely. It isn't anywhere near as sharp or punchy as the Samsung Galaxy S screen though. 577 pixels per inch. I could bring this thing right up to my eye and I would not spot a pixel. Under a microscope, I probably wouldn't. Okay, maybe that's going too far, but you get the idea. This thing looks crazy. Really, really good, both of them. You're not left wanting for anything with the iPhone 6. We can't really spot a pixel unless we really look for one with the iPhone 6, sorry. But with the Galaxy S6, you definitely end up with a better screen experience on the sharpness front, on the punchiness front, and on the deep dark blacks front. The only area the iPhone 6 will probably win out is in terms of white balance. We're yet to test out the brightness of the Galaxy S6, so don't know if it's going to come up quite as bright as the iPhone. Inside those screens, it is Samsung's TouchWiz on Android 5.0 versus Apple's iOS 8. iOS 8 has seen a few enhancements. Pull down, you've got Spotlight Search. Pull up from the bottom, and you've got some quick toggles. Pull down from the top, and you've got notifications. And you've also got a few widgets in your notifications menu. In addition to that, you've got long press Siri and double tap for multitasking. What's more, if you double tap the home button without pressing all the way, it brings a whole UI down for small hands, not like mine, to reach the top of the phone. If we take a look inside the Samsung Galaxy S6, you've got home screens, pinch out, you've got a variable number of them at that. You've also got My Magazine UX, or Flipboard Briefing it's called now. Really aren't a fan of this. Hopefully you can switch it off somehow. If we tap that, there you go. That's a really nice way of being able to switch it off. If we tap through, you've got an applications tray you can organize into apps or folders, and jumping out of that, pull down from the top, quick toggles that can access your settings as well through there. Ultimately speaking, both of these devices' UIs are really, really clean and fast on first use. The Samsung Galaxy S6 has made a bold promise though, that it won't lag anytime soon. We've had this iPhone since launch day and it hasn't started lagging. iOS 8 is incredibly efficient. Samsung says you won't find any lag on the S6 even after lots of use, and that's because of the setting of the spec inside this thing, which we'll come on to shortly after we talk about the cameras. Now, Samsung has improved the camera on the Galaxy S6 by adding optical image stabilization and an f1.9 lens. They've also simplified the user interface, so if I tap on camera, I can take a picture really nice and quickly in this automatic mode. In addition to that, if I tap on mode, I have an option to go pro. And while that doesn't have the option to control manual settings such as shutter speed, I can control things like the scene, white balance, ISO, and exposure. Flip back to this menu and you can also see that they've adopted an HTC type interface. Very, very nice and clean circular interface, and I can download more features here. In addition, if I wanted to quickly launch the camera, I could just double tap the home button and that would fire up the camera in 0.7 seconds. I could take a picture and be resting assured that it is a good picture 9 times out of 10. I have to say, in the short while I've used this camera while recording all the videos I've done with this phone now and other phones, really impressed, really impressed in fact. Want to get this in for review. Now taking a look at the iPhone 6, you can see the camera is a really nice and simple user interface yet again. You can scroll through square, panorama, you can also record video up to full HD as opposed to the 4K on the Galaxy S6. You can also record slow-mo and time-lapse video as well. As for the plain photo taking though, it could not be easier. Just point and shoot. Didn't do it as quickly as the S6, but still did it relatively quickly. And what's more, if I tap, I can control the brightness by swiping up and down, which is super nice. If I jump through to the gallery, we can take a quick look at that picture, and you can see, again, another really good picture. These will more than likely be 2 of the best cameras on the market, so we can't wait to get them in a side-by-side so that we can have a proper shootout. Now taking a look at the specs inside that we alluded to earlier, and the iPhone 6 has an Apple A8 chip inside, 1 gig of RAM, and yet despite those sounding like low specs, it runs perfectly smoothly. That's by contrast to the octa-core as opposed to dual-core Exynos processor in here with 3 gig of RAM. It also has 3 gig of DDR4 RAM. DDR4 mobile is apparently way better at grabbing your stuff quickly, which is why Samsung claims that it is going to be so much better at preventing lag than RAM before it, and indeed RAM on other devices. In addition to that, both of these are available in 64 and 128 gig capacities. The iPhone's available in a 16 gig capacity, the Samsung Galaxy S6 available in a 32 gig minimum spec, largely down to the fact Android requires a lot more memory, a little bit more memory at least, but you will fill up a 16 gig iPhone in no time flat. So we definitely would recommend whichever one you go for a larger capacity than 16. 32 gig should get you by if you're a light to moderate user after a year or so. On top of that, batteries. I think it's around a 2600 milliamp battery in the iPhone 6. In the Samsung Galaxy S6, it's a 2550 milliamp battery, but don't be too put off just yet. That sounds like a small number. It charges very quickly. Samsung's developed a new standard which allows this thing to charge from 0 to 100 in half the time it takes an iPhone 6 to charge to 0 to 100. On top of that, 10 minutes of charge will get you 4 hours of battery life out of this thing, which is super impressive. It also supports wireless charging, and the 2 main standards of wireless charging, WPC and PMA as well. Ultimately speaking, therefore, we're really impressed with what Samsung has done. We say the in-hand feel is better than anything we felt from Samsung before. We'd also say it looks decent. We're not massive fans of just how much it attracts fingerprints, but we definitely would say that's a small price to pay for ditching that super plastic fantasticness of the Samsung Galaxy S5. Hopefully you've enjoyed our comparison. If you have, make sure you click that like button. If you like the video, you can also subscribe to the channel. That's exactly how you're going to stay on top of everything we do at MWC 2015. And if you've got any questions about the Galaxy S6 or any of the other phones we've talked about, just fire them in the comments section below. Thanks for watching VTech.